And you know that feeling when a win tastes a little off? That was the vibe after the Lions' last game. Two starting defensive backs went down, Amik Robertson might get his shot in the most unexpected way, Dan Campbell sent a harsh message to our own defense, and we even had a last-minute roster addition. The heaviest news is coming at the end. But before I open up every detail of this breakdown, let me ask you for one quick thing. Hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing, it's free, and it helps power this fan conversation. Drop a like too, because that's how YouTube spreads this talk to more of the One Pride faithful. And comment below, because this virtual stands are for all of us. The game against the Browns was a win, but it came at a high cost. Anyone who follows this team knows the Lions' defense has always carried that stigma of struggling in crunch time, and now the tide seems to be testing our patience again. Losing two starting cornerbacks in the same game is a blow that scares any fan base. Terrion Arnold, our first-round rookie, hurt his shoulder and didn't return. Then DJ Reed, signed precisely to be that reliable guy, was carted off with a hamstring issue. Honestly, when I saw him being carried out, I thought, here we go again. Arnold was already having a turbulent day. He got hit with a few silly penalties on the Browns' first drive, which ended in a touchdown. But the kid has talent. You can't put everything on him. Campbell said afterward that he doesn't think it's serious, but no one is guaranteeing his presence against the Bengals. It's that suspense that makes the week drag on. And Reed's situation hurts even more. The veteran had just shined with his first interception wearing the Honolulu Blue, returning the ball to the 5-yard line and setting up the Goff to St. Brown TD, a play that got the whole Ford field on its feet. But minutes later, from the sky to the gutter, the same Reed left the field unable to put weight on his leg. Campbell has already ruled him out for Sunday. It's too tough a hit because Reed arrived as the replacement for Carlton Davis, specifically to be the anchor of the position. And get this, the game had another scare. Kirby Joseph, our all-pro safety, limped off with a knee problem. Fortunately, he returned and even recorded another interception on his resume. But imagine the fear that ran through the fan base when we saw two trainers helping him walk. Lions fans can never have peace, right? Now, between the pain of the loss and the hope, the memory remains that even banged up, the group held on. The defense forced crucial turnovers. Joseph shined again, and Reed had his moment before the fall. Still, the question lingers. Can our secondary handle facing Chase and Higgins without two healthy starters? To be honest with you, I can't think of a crueler test than this. The good news is Dan Campbell didn't let a gloomy atmosphere settle in the locker room. He hammered home resilience, talked about adjusting and staying the course. That's the grit of Detroit we always talk about. But I won't lie, it's very concerning, especially because it's a long season and secondary injuries usually cost you dearly. And hey, comment if you also think this was the heaviest blow so far, because the next news shows precisely how the replacement piece is already being thrust into responsibility. When we say the NFL is unpredictable, this is what we're talking about. Amik Robertson had been slowly gaining ground, fighting for snap after snap with Terrion Arnold, and now he might suddenly be thrown straight into the fire. This wasn't how he envisioned his chance, nor how the fans wanted to see it happen. But the game demands, and it demands fast. Arnold left with a shoulder, Reed was carted off, and the bill came due. Robertson got more playing time and showed that keep it simple but deliver style. He had a good moment, like when he almost intercepted in the third quarter, but he also slipped up, giving up a long 35-yard reception to rookie Bond. It's that roller coaster we know so well. If you look at his career path, it even earns some respect. Drafted by the Raiders in 2020, 4th round, he's always been a roster guy, rarely a permanent starter. In 5 years, 73 games, but only 25 starts. He fights, he doesn't quit, but he never locked down a spot. Now suddenly, Detroit might need him like never before. And this is against Cincinnati on the road with Chase and Higgins on the other side. That's a tough matchup, folks. And this is where that talk of next man up comes in. But the reality is harsh. If Reed doesn't play and Arnold is still hampered, Robertson becomes essential. And between you and me, who wouldn't feel the pressure? Even the most optimistic know that Burrow might be hurt, but Chase and Higgins don't forgive soft coverage. Fans are watching, and the criticism will be heavy. To be honest, I won't blame him if he gives up a few catches. The problem is the context. He's stepping in because the initial plan went out the window. The opportunity exists, of course, but it's loaded with drama. Nobody wanted it to be this way. But there's one detail. In the little he played against the Browns, Robertson didn't flinch. He played solid coverage most of the time, and even on the play he gave up, he was right there, tight to the receiver. If he can maintain that standard and maybe convert the ball that slipped away into an interception, he might surprise us. And fans love a good surprise, right? The mood in the locker room should be demanding, but also encouraging. Campbell isn't one to burn a player. He'll talk about confidence and answering the bell. And honestly, that's what Robertson needs. A firm word, the fans embracing him, and maybe his story will take a different turn here in Detroit. So I ask you, do you trust that Robertson can handle this fire? Comment below, because I'm divided. I just know that the next piece of news goes beyond the defense. The message now came directly from our head coach, and it was a tough pill to swallow. 3 straight wins, over 30 points in each one, Ford Field celebrating, and even then, Dan Campbell didn't let it slide. That's his style, direct, no window dressing. The message came after the 34-10 win against the Browns. Congratulations, but don't get too excited, there's dirt on the floor to clean up. That was it. No beating around the bush. The offense shined, of course. Gibbs running wild, averaging 6.1 yards per carry, nearly 100 total yards and a touchdown. St. Brown at his usual blistering pace, 70 yards, 2 TDs, 6 scores in the last 3 games. Even Goff, who wasn't perfect, held steady with 2 pinpoint passes for scores. On paper, everything's beautiful. But when the boss looks closely, he sees holes. Sloppy penalties, illegal formations, lost rhythm. Things that don't depend on the opponent, they depend on discipline. And get this, the numbers are deceiving. The team scored 34 points, but only produced 277 offensive yards. Seems odd, right? It's because the defense and special teams took the ball and ran with it. There was a Khalif Raymond punt return straight to the end zone, 3 forced turnovers that turned into 17 almost free points. On 2 of them, we started inside the Browns' 25-yard line. In other words, the offense was thankful, but didn't build that much on its own. Campbell made it crystal clear, don't celebrate too much because the 30-plus points were turbocharged by other units. And honestly, I agree. It's beautiful to see complementary football, the offense taking advantage of open space, but if we think we can always win like that, we're daydreaming. Against tougher defenses, if you slip up with penalties or can't drive the ball yourself, the math won't add up. To be fair, Campbell didn't take away credit. He praised how the team converted turnovers into points. It's the famous do your part when the chance appears. But he took a shot. You have to play cleaner, I know you can do more. And that "you" sounded directly aimed at the offense. It's like a parent who praises, but finishes with "clean your room." And the fans feel the same way. We cheered every point, but we also saw Goff holding the ball too long, the OL committing dumb penalties, drives stalling unnecessarily. It's a win, but it's not a perfect show. And Campbell knows that if he wants to compete with the big boys in January, he needs to clean up these edges now. So it's that mix of joy and criticism. Feels good to win, but worrying if we get complacent. And hey, comment if you also think Campbell was right to deliver that wake-up call. Because the next news brings a curious twist. A newly arrived veteran could be a key piece in the very next game. If there's one thing this team has learned from Campbell, it's that every detail matters. And now the details are in the special teams. It seems secondary, but it's not. Against the Browns, the Lions were without 3 guys who carried a lot of weight in those units. Daniel Thomas, Zach Cunningham, and the rookie Sione Vaki. That's almost a third of the backbone out of action. And so, my friend, even the most discreet gears need to respond. That's why the arrival of Ross Dwelley gained a greater meaning. He had just been promoted from the practice squad, barely had time to smell the locker room, and was handed a big job. You're going to cover holes for important people. 7 years in the NFL, over 100 games, known for being that tight end who doesn't show up much in the offense, but who does the dirty work in blocking, and especially on special teams. That's what the Lions needed on Sunday. Dwelley played very few offensive snaps, filling in for Zylstra, who is still on IR, but on special teams, he already showed his presence against the Ravens a week before. 12 snaps there with intensity, the kind of player you barely notice, but if he fails, everyone sees it. It's a thankless burden, but one that can decide a game. And the importance of this grows because the Lions take special teams seriously. Dave Phipp is considered one of the best coordinators in the league, and even so, he demands more. Detroit was number 1 in punting last year, both in gross and net average, but this year they've dropped to mid-table. It's not a tragedy, but it shows how every single piece makes a difference. Without Thomas, without Cunningham, without Vaki, the rotations get thin, and then someone like Dwelley needs to plug the hole fast. To be honest with you, this type of reinforcement doesn't grab headlines, but anyone who understands the game knows it can be decisive. A correct block on a punt coverage, a firm protection on a return, and suddenly the game flips. Remember Khalif Raymond's TD? It was born precisely because several special teams guys did the perfect dirty work. If one fails, there's no highlight. Dwelley can also be used in heavy formations, helping the run game. Nothing glamorous, but useful. And Campbell likes this kind of reliable, hard-working piece, who doesn't show up but keeps the team moving. It's the face of Detroit grit. Now, whether he'll hold down the fort until Zylstra returns in Week 7 is another story, but the message is clear. Even those who arrived yesterday can be crucial today. That's Detroit being Detroit, always always testing the limits of the roster. And hold on, because after this crazy week, it's time to put it all together and think about what it means for the immediate future. At the end of the day, this week was a pure portrait of what it means to be a Lion. We suffered heavy injuries in the secondary, saw Robertson pushed into bigger responsibility, the offense shining but getting a dressing down from Campbell, and even a newly arrived veteran already turning into a vital piece on special teams. It's that complete package of emotion, worry, and pride that only Detroit delivers. For me, this team is showing that it won't back down from a fight. And comment below, because this space is for everyone who lives the one pride. The conversation doesn't stop. Catch the next video.